There's a difference between serving people and sacrificing your soul to please them. Many of you are walking around like burnt candles, no light left for yourself, because you kept giving your flame to others who never cared to refill you. Today, let me tell you, you are not a fireplace for people's cold seasons. This message is for the givers, the peacemakers, the fixers, those who carry the weight of broken people, even when it's breaking you. There's a dangerous lie many people have believed for too long, that sacrificing yourself for others is what love is supposed to feel like. That if you're exhausted, drained, and emotionally wrecked because of someone else, it must mean you care. But that's not love. That's emotional suicide dressed in the costume of loyalty. You were never designed to carry other people's chaos at the cost of your own peace. You are not a landfill for people to dump their problems into without accountability. We live in a world that celebrates over-givers and glorifies self-destruction in the name of compassion. You're praised when you're always there for everyone. You're admired when you say yes, even when you're hurting. And slowly, you begin to believe that your worth is tied to your ability to bleed for people who would never hand you a bandage. That's not love, that's slavery. Some of you are waking up every day dreading your own life. Not because of your job, not because of your calling, but because you've become a caretaker of everyone else's fire and your flame is gone. You give until it hurts, and then you give some more. You smile while you're silently suffocating. You check in on people who never notice when you go missing. You answer texts you have no energy for. You show up to places your heart left years ago, all because you fear being called selfish. Let me say something that will shake your soul. Being selfless does not mean being soulless. Love that requires you to erase yourself is not holy. It's harmful. You were not put on this earth to be a permanent emotional nurse to people who keep wounding themselves and expect you to clean up the blood every time. Think about it. Imagine a candle in a dark room. That candle gives light. It provides warmth. But if it keeps burning without ever being trimmed, without protection from the wind, eventually the wax melts and the fire is gone. Now the room is cold again, and the candle is gone. That's what many of you have become. Melted versions of your original self, because you gave everything to people who never protected your fire. You cook for everyone but forget to eat. You listen to everybody's problems but have no one who listens to you. You fund people's dreams while yours collect dust. You help them heal while you carry silent trauma. And every time you think about stepping back, a voice in your head says, don't be selfish. Don't let them down. Be there for them. But here's the truth: you are not responsible for everyone's survival at the cost of your sanity. You can't be the hero in every story. You can't keep showing up when you're barely standing. You're allowed to say, I can't. You're allowed to say, not today. You're allowed to need space. And if they only love you when you're available, they never loved you. They loved your usefulness. Love is not proven by how broken you're willing to become. It's proven by how much truth you're willing to stand on, even when it offends people who benefited from your silence. You are not Atlas. You are not built to carry the weight of everyone's world. You are a human being with needs, limits, and sacred value. The moment you begin treating yourself like you matter, you'll notice who only loved the version of you that didn't have boundaries. Look around. Some of the people closest to you are not partners in your life. They're emotional parasites. They feed off your kindness, drain your energy, and disappear when it's your turn to need support. And you keep justifying it because they had it rough, or their family, or they've been through a lot. But when is your pain going to matter? When is your healing going to be prioritized? There are mothers, fathers, daughters, husbands, wives, pastors, friends, and leaders burning silently because they think it's noble to suffer in silence for the sake of others. But hear this clearly: your suffering does not save people. Your example does. People learn more from your strength than your self-sacrifice. They grow when they see you value yourself, not when you let yourself be trampled in the name of love. You teach people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. If you keep showing up for others while never showing up for you, you're setting the tone for a life of silent resentment and invisible death. And one day, you'll wake up bitter, angry, and empty, not because of what they did, but because of what you allowed. Some of you need to realize that saying no is not an act of rejection, it's an act of preservation. You're not being cold, you're being conscious. You're not being distant, you're being deliberate. Because if you keep living your life trying to fill everyone else's cup while your own soul is on fire, you won't just lose them, you'll lose yourself. People won't always applaud your boundaries. They won't cheer when you start choosing peace. But that's not your problem. Your destiny is not dependent on their comfort. You are not here to play savior. You are here to be whole. Because when you are whole, your presence is powerful. Your love becomes magnetic. And your light, instead of being a fire that burns you alive, becomes a beacon that leads others without destroying yourself in the process. You've been lied to if you were taught that saying, no makes you selfish. Somewhere along the way, you were programmed to believe that a good person is always available, always agreeable, and always saying yes. But that's not goodness, that's self-abandonment. And it's dangerous. Because when you keep letting people walk in and out of your emotional space like it's a hotel lobby, you don't just lose your peace, you lose your identity. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are about protecting the version of you that is age or sacred. They are not walls to isolate. They are city gates with keys. You decide who gets access and under what conditions. You wouldn't leave the door to your house wide open all night long and let strangers walk in, eat your food, sleep in your bed, and leave whenever they want. So why do you do that with your emotions? Why do you allow people to come in, drain you with their drama, dump their chaos on your peace, and leave you empty? You must understand this as your time. Your energy, your space, your mind, these are the currencies of your life, Asi, and if you keep giving them away freely to people who don't honor them, you will wake up bankrupt. Emotionally, mentally, and spiritually bankrupt. Think about the last time you agreed to something your soul screamed no to. The moment someone asked you to do that extra favor, attend that gathering, give that money, answer that phone call, and you said yes, not out of desire, but out of obligation. And as soon as you did it, you felt resentment bubbling under your smile. That wasn't kindness. That was pressure. That wasn't love. That was guilt. And living like that will slowly kill you on the inside. One of the biggest traps in relationships, family, romantic, spiritual, or professional, is believing that setting a boundary means you are abandoning someone. But the truth is, boundaries are the way you are to keep yourself healthy enough to remain in relationships in the first place. People who truly care for you will respect your no just as much as they celebrate your yes. Have you ever noticed how the people who benefit the most from your lack of boundaries are the ones who get the angriest when you finally set one? That's because boundaries expose the parts of people that were using you. Suddenly, the friendship that only existed because you were always available starts to fade. The family member who only called when they needed something stops showing up. The romantic partner who thrived off your silence becomes uncomfortable when you speak up. Don't grieve the loss, but recognize the revelation. Those connections were never healthy. They were built on imbalance. A woman once said, every time I tried to pull away to take care of myself, I felt like I was being cruel, until I realized I was teaching people how to treat me by allowing them to treat me any kind of way. That's the power of boundaries. They has trained people on how to handle your soul. And if you're constantly accessible, constantly agreeable, constantly giving, you're not being noble, you're being as neglected. Boundaries are how you honor the investment of your life. They say to the world, I know what I carry, and not everyone is qualified to have access to it. They are not selfish. They are our survival tools. Just like a guardrail on a mountain road keeps a car from driving off a cliff, boundaries keep your life from spiraling into regret, burnout, and resentment. Some of you are tired and don't even know why. It's not your job. It's not your schedule. It's the constant weight of emotional responsibility for people who should be carrying their own load. You're drained because you keep saying yes out of fear, not love. You're exhausted because you're trying to please everyone and protect no one, especially not yourself. But you were never built to be everyone's emergency contact. You are not the answer to every call, not the solution to every crisis. You are allowed to say, I don't have the capacity for that right now, and still be a good person. Boundaries don't make you bitter. They make you as better. They allow you to serve from a place of overflow, not obligation. They let you show up with joy, not resentment. They give you the emotional margin to love deeply without losing yourself completely. And most importantly, they create room for people to step up Because when you stop overfunctioning, others are forced to grow. In daily life, this might mean not answering your phone after a certain hour. It might mean declining that invite, saying no to that extra project, refusing to lend money, or simply telling someone, I can't carry this conversation right now, I need space. And here's what will happen. The people who genuinely value you will adjust. They'll respect your pace. They'll adapt to your new standard. But the ones who are attached to your access, not your soul, will fall away. Let them. Because if your boundary breaks the relationship, it wasn't a relationship, it was a transaction. And you deserve more than that. People say love has no limits, but that's not true. Love that is limitless, thaws without wisdom, becomes enabling. Love that gives endlessly as without boundaries becomes exhausting. Love that says yes to everything and says no to yourself. And eventually something or someone has to give. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Yet every day, millions of people wake up and try to do just that. They get out of bed with aching souls and tired hearts, and they go out into the world pretending to be whole. They smile when they're broken. They encourage others when their own spirit is drowning. They listen to everyone's problems, answer every call, show up for every request, and say, I'm fine, when inside they are anything but. This is not strength. This is survival on fumes. And the truth is, it's only a matter of time before the crash comes. Imagine walking around with a cup in your hand and everyone you pass by reaches in and takes a sip. Some take more than others. Some drain it dry. And you never stop to refill it. You never stop to drink from it yourself. You never stop to check if there's anything left. Eventually, you look down and realize your cup is empty. Not just empty, but cracked, dry, and dusty. That's what life feels like when you keep giving from a place that hasn't been nourished. It's no wonder you feel irritable. It's no wonder you snap at people you love. It's no wonder you cry at night and can't explain why. You've become a source of energy for others while starving your own soul. You've turned into a well that everyone draws from but no one contributes to. And what's worse, you think it's your responsibility to keep going. You think resting is laziness. You think saying, I need help is weakness. But it's not. It's wisdom. Because a dry cup can't hydrate anyone. There's a lie you've been living under that people will love you more the more you give. That if you become indispensable, they'll finally see your worth. So you overextend, you overcommit. You say, yes, when you're screaming no inside. You take the late night calls. You sacrifice your sleep, your peace, your dreams, all to prove your value to people who only show up when they need something. But here's the hard truth. People don't value what's always available, especially when it's at the cost of itself. A woman once said, I raised 3 kids, held down a full-time job, cooked, cleaned, solved everybody's problems. And now that I need help, it's silent. That silence is not betrayal. It's revelation. You train people to believe you don't need rest. You taught them you don't break. You demonstrated that your cup was always full, even when it wasn't. And now that you're empty, they don't know what to do with you. That's not your failure. That's your wake-up call. Refilling your cup is not selfish. It's essential. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. You can't help others breathe while you're suffocating. You can't lead others to light while you walk in darkness. And you cannot love anyone fully if you're running on emotional debt. You will give half-hearted affection, offer shallow support, and live with a soul that feels hollow, all because you skipped the one person who needed your love the most. You. Self-care isn't just bubble baths and vacations. It's boundaries. It's saying, I need 15 minutes alone in the morning before I talk to anyone. It's saying, I won't answer calls past 9 p.m. It's making time for joy. It's going to therapy. It's choosing silence over chaos. It's knowing that rest is not laziness. Rest is recovery. Athletes don't win gold medals by running nonstop. They win because they train hard and rest well. Your life is no different. Daily life throws constant demands at you. Deadlines, bills, expectations, conversations, noise. And if you don't deliberately slow down to check your cup, the world will keep demanding what you no longer have to give. Your job won't pause for your breakdown. Your family might not notice your burnout. That's why you must become your own guardian. You must monitor your soul like you monitor your bank account. You must know when to say, I'm tapped out. I need to refill. And it's not about isolation. It's about restoration. You're not withdrawing from people because you're selfish. You're stepping back so you can return with clarity, peace, and strength. There's a power in protecting your energy. You become more focused, more discerning. You stop entertaining things that drain you. You start gravitating toward peace. And when you operate from a full cup, everything changes. Your voice becomes steady. Your emotions become rooted. Your kindness becomes sustainable. If you've ever been on an airplane, you know what they say during the safety instructions. In case of emergency, put your oxygen mask on as first, before assisting others. Why? Because you are no good to anyone if you lose consciousness. And yet, in everyday life, you keep trying to save drowning people while you can't swim. You keep pouring into others while your spirit is gasping for breath. You're generous, but you're exhausted. You're strong, but you're silently collapsing. You're helpful, but you're hurting. So many people are silently suffering because they were never taught how to refill themselves. They only learned how to serve, how to sacrifice, how to be useful. But usefulness without wellness is a slow death. Don't wait until your body shuts down, your mind breaks down, or your soul gives out. Recognize the warning signs. Pay attention to the wariness. Listen to the whisper that says, you need a moment. Because that moment, that one pause to refill, might be what saves your life. Guilt has become the invisible chain wrapped around the necks of good-hearted people. Not because they've done something wrong, but because they've been conditioned to feel responsible for other people's happiness. Every time you say no, that chain tightens. Every time you choose yourself, that voice in your head whispers, you should feel bad for that. But here's the truth, guilt is not always a compass pointing toward wrongdoing. Sometimes guilt is the Fez smoke signal of manipulation. It doesn't mean you hurt someone. It means you stopped letting them use you. You were taught to associate guilt with morality, to feel guilty if you said no, if you walked away, if you set a boundary, if you stopped answering every call or attending every event. But in many cases, that guilt is not your conscience. It's ass programming. Programming that came from people who benefited every time you ignored your own needs. They were never uncomfortable when you were overextending. They were never concerned when you were exhausted. But the moment you chose peace over pleasing them, the guilt came like a tidal wave. Let's be honest. Some people are not upset because you did something wrong. They're upset because you're no longer doing what's wrong-wise for you, just to make them feel right. You've been trained like an emotional puppet. Give when you're tired. Say yes when it hurts. Show up when your spirit is screaming for silence. And when you finally break the pattern and choose yourself, they hand you a gift-wrapped package of guilt and say, you've changed. Yes, you have. You've changed from being used to being aware. Daily life is filled with moments where guilt tries to manipulate your choices. You say, I can't come over tonight, I need rest. And suddenly you're labeled selfish. You don't lend money this time, and now you're cold-hearted. You stop participating in family drama, and suddenly you're the problem. But guilt in these moments is not truth, it's a test. It asks you, will you betray yourself again to keep someone else comfortable? One of the most subtle forms of control is when people use your empathy against you. They cry just loud enough for you to feel responsible. They hint at their suffering just enough to pull you back in. They say things like, I guess I can't count on you, or you don't care like you used to. Not because they believe it, but because they know you do. They know that if they press the right emotional buttons, you'll return to being their safety net, even when it costs you your sanity. And it works, doesn't it? You start to question yourself. You wonder, am I being too hard? Am I abandoning them? What if I'm wrong? You replay the conversation in your head over and over. But let me ask you something. Ask, why do you only question your behavior when you choose yourself? Why is it that when you break your own back to carry someone else's weight, you call it love? But when you stand up straight, you call it guilt, because you've been trained. Trained by emotional manipulators. Trained by systems that reward self-sacrifice and shame self-respect. Trained by people who loved your silence more than your standards. And now, every time you assert your boundaries, it feels like rebellion. Every time you choose peace, it feels like betrayal. But it's not. It's clarity. It's freedom. It's the unlearning of a lifetime of toxic loyalty. Picture this. A woman keeps giving her time to a friend who only calls to complain, never to check in. She listens for hours, offers advice, rearranges her schedule, all while her own life is in chaos. One day she finally says, I can't talk right now. I'm going through something too. The friend snaps, guilt trips her, calls her selfish. And what does the woman do? She apologizes. She apologizes for needing space in her own storm. This happens every day. People feel guilty for not being emotionally available 24/7, for not showing up when they're depleted, for not being the hero every single time. But no one was made to carry that much. Guilt isn't proof of wrongdoing. Sometimes it's proof that you're finally waking up from emotional slavery. When you've spent your life people-pleasing, as freedom feels like rebellion. When you've always been available, setting a boundary feels like abandonment. You have to learn to today sit with guilt without obeying it. Just because it shows up doesn't mean it's right. Let it sit. Let it scream. Let it call you names. But don't move. Because every time you choose yourself over guilt, that voice gets weaker. That chain gets looser. That fog in your mind begins to clear. And one day, you'll realize you were never selfish. You were just finally sane. Ask yourself this: who benefits when you feel guilty for doing what's right for you? Who wins when you go back to being the overgiver, the fixer, the peacekeeper at your own expense? Who celebrates when you stay silent, say yes too quickly, show up without joy? That's where the manipulation hides. In the celebration of your self-neglect. The people who love you won't weaponize guilt against you. They'll understand when you need space. They'll respect when you say no. They'll honor your boundaries, not just tolerate them. Because real connection doesn't require constant sacrifice. It requires this mutual recognition. And if guilt is the only thing holding the relationship together, it's not a relationship. It's a hostage situation wrapped in emotional obligation. Guilt is a powerful force, but it is not always a truthful one. It mimics your conscience. It wears the mask of morality. But beneath it often lies the fear of disapproval, the addiction to approval, and the scars of being needed too much by too many for too long. There comes a moment in every person's life when they look around and ask themselves a hard question. Why am I the only one giving? Why do I have to initiate every conversation, fix every issue, carry the emotional weight of this connection all by myself? That moment of awareness is painful, but it's also powerful because it reveals the truth that many people try to ignore us. One-sided relationships are not sustainable, no matter how deep the history or how strong the emotional attachment might be. If you're always the one reaching, always the one calling, always the one adjusting, then you're not in a relationship, you're in a performance. You were not created to beg for energy you're supposed to be receiving freely. Healthy relationships, whether they're romantic, platonic, family, or business, operate on as reciprocity, not rescue. You were not designed to be a permanent emotional ATM where people withdraw love, attention, advice, comfort, and peace, and never deposit anything back. You're not an option. You're not a placeholder. You're not a free therapy session with a smile. You are a soul with depth, a mind with value, a heart with limits. And if those things are never honored in return, you're being depleted, not loved. So many people stay in relationships out of loyalty to their own sacrifice. You convince yourself, but I've invested so much, or they're just going through a lot, or maybe they'll change if I keep giving more. But you need to hear this, as reciprocity is not a request, it's a requirement. If you keep pouring water into a cup that has no bottom, don't be surprised when you run dry and they still feel thirsty. The problem isn't your effort. The problem is their capacity or their unwillingness to give back. In mature relationships, you don't have to chase. You don't have to explain your worth. You don't have to constantly remind someone to check on you, to ask how you're doing, to support you in return. When it's healthy, have you give and you receive. You speak and you are heard. You show up and they meet you there. It's not about keeping score. But let's be honest. You shouldn't always be the only one keeping the relationship alive while the other person enjoys the benefits of your consistency. There's a dangerous myth that says, if you love someone, you'll never give up on them. But the truth is, if someone loves you, they won't leave you carrying the whole relationship alone. They will match your energy. They will feel responsible for their part. They will ask, how can I show up better for you? And if they never ask that, if they never reflect, never reciprocate, never rebuild, then what you have is not a relationship, it's an emotional transaction. Look at your day-to-day life. Think of the people you always call first. The ones you check on every week. The ones who only seem to reach out when they need a favor, when they're lonely, when they're in crisis. Pay attention to who celebrates you when you win, not just who comes crying when they lose. Watch who shows up when you have nothing to give. That's how you know who's connected to your heart and not just your hand. A woman once shared her story. She was always the dependable one, the strong friend. She was the counselor, the planner, the peacemaker. Birthdays, holidays, emergencies, she was always present. But one year she got sick. She was hospitalized for weeks. And guess what? The phone didn't ring. No one came. The same people she had sacrificed so much for went on with their lives. And in that painful silence, she realized something life-changing. A presence is a gift that should not be given without discernment. If people can live without you when you're struggling, maybe they should live without you when you're well. You have to stop making excuses for those who repeatedly show you they're only there for what they can get. Stop holding on to potential. Stop believing that one day they'll wake up and suddenly become the person you keep being to them. People don't change because you overextend. They change because they choose to grow. And if they don't choose that, no amount of love, patience, or effort on your end can fill that gap. Imagine two people rowing a boat. If only one person is rowing, the boat goes in circles. Round and round, no forward progress, just motion without meaning. That's what it feels like to be in a relationship without reciprocity. You're exhausted and nothing moves. You keep trying and the scenery never changes. But when both people row, when both contribute, the boat glides, moves forward, reaches places. That's the beauty of balance. That's the power of mutual effort. You are worthy of that kind of energy. The kind that says, let me carry you for a while, you've carried too much. The kind that asks, are you okay? Without waiting for you to fall apart first. The kind that loves without conditions and gives without keeping score, but still knows how to say, your heart matters too. Because that's what mature love looks like. It doesn't drain, it develops. It develops. It doesn't demand, it discerns. It doesn't manipulate, it multiplies your joy, your peace, and your purpose. Don't settle for connections where you're only valuable when you're useful. Don't hold on to titles that come with no action, friend, partner, family, if there's no effort behind them. People who truly care won't let you always be the one holding the relationship together with duct tape and hope. They will just meet you halfway. Not because you begged, but because they understand that love is not a one-way street paved with silence and sacrifice. From the time you were young, you were taught to be nice, to be polite, to not rock the boat. You were praised when you made others happy, when you put your needs last, when you bit your tongue and smiled through the pain. Slowly, without even realizing it, you started believing that your value was tied to how well you could please the people around you. That if you kept them comfortable, they would keep you loved. But the harsh truth is, when your life becomes a stage for everyone else's approval, you lose the plot of your own story. There is a dangerous illusion that many people live under. The belief that the more you do for others, the more accepted you'll be. So you become the helper, the fixer, the one everyone leans on. You morph into whatever version of yourself is most convenient for others. You silence your voice to keep the peace. You dress down your dreams so you don't outshine. You become addicted to validation, to applause, to being seen as the one who's always there. But here's the wake-up call. Azra, your life has a purpose far greater than managing other people's emotions. Your existence was not meant to be a public service announcement. You are not a placeholder for someone else's insecurities. You are not here to maintain the comfort of people who fear your confidence. You were born with a vision that has weight, with potential that has fire, with a destiny that demands you show up fully, unapologetically, and courageously. And that means some people will not like you. Some people will be offended by your boundaries. Some people will walk away when you stop bending. Let them. That's not rejection. That's alignment. You don't owe anyone your exhaustion. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone an edited version of yourself just so they can feel better about staying small. You have stayed in rooms too long that couldn't handle your fullness. You've shrunken your voice, your style, your laughter, your brilliance, all because you thought making others comfortable was the same as being kind. But what if your breakthrough is on the other side of discomfort, not just for you, but for those around you? Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you say no to something that could have developed you. Every time you choose people pleasing over purpose, you rob the world of the real you. The version of you that writes the book, starts the business, walks away from chaos, speaks up at the table, leaves that toxic relationship, sets a new standard. The version of you that stops apologizing for having needs, having opinions, having a calling. Daily life will test you. Your phone will ring and someone will want your time. A friend will need a favor. A relative will expect your silence. A coworker will lean on your kindness. And it will be easy, so easy, to slip back into the role of caretaker, fixer, people pleaser. But every yes needs to be measured against your mission. Every yes needs to pass through the gate of your purpose. Is this helping you grow, or is this draining your soul? Imagine an artist who never paints because she's too busy cleaning up other people's messes. Imagine a visionary who never builds because he's always stuck in other people's drama. Imagine a leader who never leads because she's too worried about being liked. That's what it looks like when you live to please others. Your gifts sit on the shelf. Your dreams gather dust, your power atrophies. Because people pleasing might keep you liked, but it will never make you fulfilled. You were not created to be everyone's solution. You were created to be someone's inspiration. And that inspiration doesn't come from how much you sacrifice. It comes from how deeply you stand in your truth. The world is not changed by people who never say no. The world is changed by people who understand that pleasing everyone is the fastest way to betray themselves. The world is changed by people who dare to disappoint others in order to obey the deep call within themselves. And yes, it's scary. It's terrifying to step into your purpose and leave behind the identity you've built around approval. You will feel guilty at first. You'll question yourself. You'll miss the praise. You'll wonder if you're being too cold, too distant, too selfish. But that's just the detox. That's just the withdrawal from a system you were never meant to be enslaved to. People will call you names when you shift. Difficult, arrogant, unbothered. Wear them like badges. Because those same people praised your self-sacrifice when it served them. And now they don't recognize you because you're not bleeding for them anymore. That's not your failure. That's your freedom. One day someone is going to look at your life and say, how did they do it? How did they break the cycle? How did they stop caring so much about what everyone else thought? And the answer will be simple. You remember that you were not born to be a background character in someone else's story. You were born to write your own. You were born to stand out. You were born to create, to build, to impact, to lead, not from a place of fear, but from the deep knowing that your life is a divine assignment, not a performance. You have spent too many seasons shrinking to fit into spaces you were called to outgrow. You've walked through doors backwards, apologizing for your existence, handing out pieces of yourself like samples at a supermarket, hoping someone would take enough to finally see your worth. But let me remind you, you were never created to blend in. You were created to break patterns, to disrupt cycles, to rise in such a way that people have no choice but to respect your presence or remove themselves from your path. There comes a time when you must stop explaining who you are and simply ye as be it. The version of you that once begged for approval, that feared rejection, that made decisions based on someone else's comfort, that version has served its time. But now it's time for the evolved you to rise. The version that is done dimming your light because someone else forgot how to shine. The version that walks into rooms with full authority, not arrogance, but awareness. Awareness that you carry something sacred, something powerful, something irreplaceable. Stop apologizing for having standards. Stop shrinking to make others feel tall. Your silence never protected anyone. Your pretending never built anything lasting. If people are uncomfortable with your boundaries, let them be uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. Evolution is uncomfortable. But so is staying the same and calling it peace. Someone once said, don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You've done that long enough. Burnt your time, your energy, your heart, your health for people who wouldn't hand you a match if you were in the dark. But here's the truth. Those who truly love you will not need to be burnt to feel your warmth. They will stand beside you in the light. They will grow with you. They will match your energy, not drain it. You are not here to convince anyone of your value. Let them underestimate you. And then let your results speak so loud that it silences every voice that ever doubted you. Let your success become your volume. Let your peace become your resistance. Let your elevation be your answer. Greatness never begs. It never pleads. It never waits for permission. It moves. It shifts. It speaks. It takes up space. And so must you. You were not given a dream to negotiate it down to something small and manageable for people who think average is acceptable. Don't water yourself down because someone else can't handle your full strength. Coffee isn't for everyone. Neither is truth, neither is purpose, and neither is you. And that's okay, because your assignment isn't to be popular, it's to be purposeful. One of the greatest acts of self-love is learning how to disappoint people who had unrealistic expectations of you. Let them feel what they need to feel. You're not cruel. You're not cold. You're just finally choosing as you. And while others are waiting for validation, you will be building. While they're gossiping, you will be growing. While they're questioning your decisions, you will be moving in divine alignment. Because at the end of the day, your peace is not up for public opinion. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "A man who won't die for something is not fit to live." And I say, a person who keeps living for everyone else's approval is not truly alive. You've been breathing. Now it's time to live. Not cautiously, not quietly, but boldly, intentionally, and powerfully. Because when you finally stop apologizing for your greatness, something shifts in the atmosphere. People start adjusting, environments start changing, and purpose starts unfolding. There's a lion inside you, not to devour others, but to dominate your fear, to rise above excuses, to walk boldly into the unknown, trusting that even if the path isn't clear, your purpose still is. So remember this. You don't owe anyone the version of you that you've already outgrown. Dazer, you don't owe anyone the explanation for why you're finally choosing peace. And you certainly don't owe the world a watered down version of your fire just because some people prefer smoke over truth. Your cup is sacred. Your energy is sacred. Your time is sacred. And from this moment forward, you don't burn to keep others warm. You build your fire and you invite those who carry wood, not those who only show up to steal the flame. Because when you stand in your truth, when you rise in your authenticity, when you choose yourself without shame or hesitation, you don't just inspire others to do the same. You give them permission to finally stop burning too.